What's up guys, I'm Brent from PrecisionLED.com, and here we have an 08 Kia Rondo. We'll be performing an LED interior light install on. Now the 08 Rondo, also known as the Karen, is part of the second generation, so this installation is compatible with all years 06 through 2013. Today we're going to be installing LEDs on the front map, the rear dome, the license plate, and the reverse lights. Today we'll be installing a PrecisionLED 5730 style premium LED kit, which come with these 3 interior trim tools you'll see us using throughout the video. We have our serrated knife tool, our pointed wedge tool, and our fork-shaped wedge tool. We're going to start by installing on the map light. We're going to be using our fork-shaped wedge tool in order to gain access to the lights. Now the owner of this vehicle actually attempted to install LEDs on this car previously before bringing it to us, and he actually just took a flathead screwdriver and just tried to jam it into the fixture and actually damaged his fixture, as you can see right up here. And then he just used some super glue to try to piece it back together. But this is why you would want to make sure, number one, to be gentle, but also to use a tool set that's actually manufactured for this job, like our trim tool kit that comes with any package deals that you purchase from PrecisionLED.com. And so we're actually just going to take the fork portion of the tool here, and we're going to start by prying towards the switch side, which is towards the nose of the vehicle. So we're just going to want to come in perpendicular, and then once we're wedged in there between the lens and the fixture, you're just going to want to pry outward, just like so, and the lens should come out rather easily. And now we have access to the lights here. Now as you can see, we've already gone ahead and done the install on the passenger side, so we're just going to swap out the driver's side. Now this bulb, it's a bit difficult to remove just with your bare hands, so a trick in order to remove the bulb a little bit easier is just to take a small piece of tape, and you just want to make sort of a U shape like so, and you just want to take the tape and wrap it around the bulb. Just with the tail end of the tape here, you can pull the bulb out of the fixture. And so here we have our premium 5730 style LED that we'll be installing. Now these LEDs, they're non-polarity specific, so you can pop them in any orientation and they should come on. And everything looks good. So now we can just pop the lens back on. So we're first just going to want to start by lining up the 2 back tabs right here towards the tail end of the vehicle. And once those are in place, we can just snap the front clips into place. Now we're installing on the dome light, and we're going to be using our serrated knife tool, the flat end, in order to access the light here. So we're just going to want to be prying from the switch side right here, and you're just going to take the flat end and you're going to wedge it inside vertically. And then once you're wedged inside there, you're just going to want to pry outward until the lens comes loose, just like so. You just work your way down, and now we have access to the bulb. So now we're just going to take our pointed wedge tool, and we're just going to pry the bulb out of the connection here, just like so. Just be careful, the bulb can be pretty warm. And so here we have our premium 5730 style LED, so we'll just pop that in. And you just want to be sure that the LED boards are facing downward. Everything looks good. And so here we can reinstall the lens now. So we're first just going to want to line up the 2 back tabs accordingly. And then once those are in place, you can just apply a little bit of pressure on the front tabs until they snap into place. Now we're installing on the license plate. In order to gain access to the halogen bulb here, we just need to remove these 2 bolts, and you can do so just with a Phillips screwdriver. And so after the bolts are removed, we're just going to take our serrated knife tool, the flat end, in order to pry this lens outward. So we're just going to want to come in vertically, and then once you do have the tool wedged in between the lens and the fixture, you're just going to want to pry outward, just like so. And now we have access to the halogen bulb. Now in order to remove the bulb, you're just going to want to pry down on one of these prongs here, and then just catch the bulb once it releases. And so here we have our premium 5730 style LED that we'll be installing. We're going to be installing with a pair of needle nose pliers just to make sure that our hands are not in the shot. And so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to pry one of the tabs outward in order to create enough space to fit the bulb into the connectors here. And so we're going to be doing so just with our pointed wedge tool. So we're going to just pry this inside tab outward first. And then we're going to be lining up the outside connector on the LED. And once that's in place, you can just lock the opposite side tab into place as well, like so. And lastly, you're just going to want to make sure that the LED boards are facing downward. Now let's just test the bulb to make sure everything's working properly. So everything looks good, so now we can just reinstall the lens here. So we'll just line up the tabs into the appropriate screw holes, and we'll just take our bolts, we'll just pop those back in. Now we'll be installing on the reverse light. And to gain access to the halogen bulb, which is this top one right here, we're actually going to be removing the entire housing from the vehicle, but it is actually pretty simple. We're just going to have to be removing a few bolts and the housing should slide right out. So we're first going to want to take a flathead screwdriver and we're going to want to pry in between these clips in order to expose those bolts. Just like so, and now we have access to the bolts, which we can remove with a Phillips screwdriver. So now that we have removed the bolts, we can just slide the reverse housing out. It does slide out typically pretty simply, but if you're having difficulty, you can always take the crowbar portion of our fork-shaped wedge tool and just pry in between the housing and the vehicle, just like so. There are a couple pegs that you actually need to release, which are just these two pegs right here. And so now we have access to the halogen reverse bulb, which is just this one right here, the top white connector here. So we're just going to grasp the connector, twist the connector counterclockwise and just pull out. And now we can just remove the bulb with our bare hands. And so here we have our 5730 style LED, so we'll just pop that in. Now, before reassembling everything, let's just test the light to make sure everything's working properly. So everything looks good. Now we can just take the connector. We're just going to want to line up these tabs accordingly to the corresponding tabs that are in the reverse housing. And once everything is seated flush, we're just going to twist the connector clockwise in order to lock it into place. And next we can just reassemble the housing into the vehicle. We're just going to want to be sure to line up these two pegs into the two corresponding holes that are in the rear of the vehicle. Once those are in place, we can just re-screw in the bolts. And lastly, just close up these three clips and you're all set.
And that's the end of the installation. If you have any questions or concerns, please email us at help@precisionled.com, or you can reach us online and submit a support ticket at www.precisionled.com/contact. Now, like we said before, please like or subscribe if you enjoyed the video or enjoyed the process for what we do. It really does help us out when we make the next one, knowing that there's people out there watching the videos. Have a good one.